The ceasefire proposal put forward by the United States has been met with total opposition from Russia, Ukraine, and the European Union. The only party in support is the U.S. itself. How pitiful. This ceasefire agreement reveals a ridiculous truth. The supposedly all-powerful, tough-as-nails Trump has bizarrely knelt before a loser, Putin. What Trump doesn't understand is that the biggest obstacle to peace talks between Russia and Ukraine is Trump himself. Trump has many strengths, but one fatal flaw. He can't tell friend from foe, good from bad. He often calls his most vicious enemies his best friends, while seeing those who should be his closest allies as mortal enemies. Take Putin, for example. Deep down, he's anti-American, anti-Trump, anti-humanity. He's no different from Hitler, and his current situation is just like Hitler in April 1945. Terrified, hiding in a bunker, hanging by a thread, and about to be completely destroyed. At a time like this, even the slightest signal of kindness would make him weep with gratitude. Yet Trump isn't offering him a branch of olive. He's handing over an entire forest. And this cunning devil Putin, despite being thrilled on the inside, has the audacity to put on a show, pretending that he doesn't even care about the U.S., making endless demands, utterly absurd ones at that. A few months ago, he wouldn't have dared dream of making a single demand. But now he's brazenly asking for all four eastern Ukrainian provinces to be handed over to Russia, for Ukraine to recognize Crimea as Russian territory, for no European peacekeeping troops to be stationed in Ukraine, and for Ukraine to permanently abandon NATO membership. What's more outrageous, he's demanding that the U.S. must lift all sanctions on Russia before talks can even begin. Since 2014, the world has sanctioned Russia, with the U.S. leading the charge, never letting Russia catch a breath. And now, out of nowhere, Trump wants to lift sanctions first? Right now, it seems like the only person in the world afraid of Putin is Trump. And why Trump fears Putin, no one knows. Not even Trump himself. Somehow, Putin has suddenly become a strong man who dominates the world, Europe, even the U.S., a completely nonsensical image created by Trump himself. And now Putin is pushing even further, making it impossible for the U.S. to save face by directly rejecting America's peace plan. That plan, which is clearly 100% in Putin's favor, was still turned down by him. Unbelievable. Saying Trump can't tell friend from foe has never been clearer than it is now. Putin has reached such a despicable low that Trump should have immediately rebuffed him without giving him the slightest courtesy. Yet Trump doesn't even dare to get mad at him. Instead, Trump turns around and lashes out at Zelensky as if Zelensky were the one being unreasonable. In reality, Zelensky hasn't said much. He simply believes the peace proposal gives too much to Russia. If you ask Ukraine to recognize Crimea as Russian, he can't agree because Ukraine's constitution already defines Crimea as its permanent territory. But Trump attacks him mercilessly, calling him a villain, an obstacle to peace. Even an illegitimate leader, the worst of the worst. It's completely baffling and incredibly disheartening. If you can't tell who your enemies are, how can you fight them? You might end up fighting your own friends and letting your real enemies go free. The biggest problem with America's peace plan is exactly this. It mistakes friend for foe. It treats Russia as a friend and Ukraine as an enemy. It fails to recognize that Putin is the aggressor and that Zelensky and the Ukrainian people are the victims. You cannot help the aggressor oppress the victim. That's a fundamental moral principle. Get that wrong, and not only will no one accept your peace plan, but you'll be condemned by history, by humanity, and by the world. That's why we say America's peace plan is a ridiculous document, doomed to fail. We've said it all along. Russia is like a dying arrow at the end of its flight, a grasshopper after autumn, with no bounce left in it. It's completely exhausted, economically collapsed, with its military relying on ragtag support from China. Its troops are clueless soldiers shipped in from North Korea. Russia has burned through all its resources. At this point, if the U.S. wants to achieve a ceasefire or a comprehensive peace agreement, there is only one path, and it's the simplest. Use America's most advanced weapons to launch a swift strike, behead Russia's top leadership overnight, and completely cut off communications to all Russian frontline units. At the same time, Provide Ukraine with the most powerful, destructive weaponry so they can storm into Russian territory overnight. If that happens, a peace agreement could be reached the very next day because Russia would have no choice but to surrender.